Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. My next guest is one of the most prominent and influential conservative voices in the United States of America. He's the host on Hannity that can be seen Monday through Friday on Fox News, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. Please welcome the one and only Sean Hannity here to rub it in. Before we even start, let me say this.
Whoa. Stop right there. No way. I'm not here to rub anything in. I'm not spiking the football. Ask me how I feel about the election. I will tell you, I am grateful. I am relieved. It was an overwhelming win. When you made your prediction to me, I happened to be around people that you love when you made it, and you told me you were like so certain which way I was going. I said, not so fast. But, you know, I love the fact that we can have a dialogue and a discussion. And there's no spike in the football here. I feel this is for the betterment of the country. I want you to succeed. I want every American to succeed. I want everybody to be happy. Success will be good for all of us.
See, this is the problem. This is my platform. You've already started by saying, hold up, then let me get my first question out. Because the first thing that I was going to get on was telling my audience we had to wait a while for you because your hair wasn't right, the background wasn't right, and you had to look just so pristine for the camera. So I was going to tease you before I even got
to the lighting was so bad you couldn't see me. So I don't have a computer. This is my brother-in-law's computer.
Right.
He had to come over here and set it up. I don't own a computer. I don't have an email account. I have no access to my social media. I have to go through a staff to put something up on social media. But when you're on my show, I give you all the room, and then I get attacked.
That is
Stephen A. School Sean Hannity. So
that's
it's my turn today.
Yeah, ask about 5-minute questions before you let me answer. Oh my Lord, you need to stop. But listen, let's get serious here for a second. You were telling me, credit to you, you were telling me for so long you thought Trump would win this election. You thought the Democrats would lose it. Sean, I have to admit, I thought that when the first attempted assassination against him took place, and he went to the ground and then ultimately got up with blood dripping down the right side of his face. And he raised his fist to the crowd, fight, 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 with Secret Service covering him, and the American flag was over him. I said, this is a wrap. He's going to win the election. Then he started talking and getting in his own way. And I said, I've never seen anybody blow it in such a situation in my life. But you never wavered. Why? What made you so confident this outcome was going to be this outcome?
Look, there were a lot of things going on that I was confident on, the issues that transcend all demographics. I'm so sick of demographics. We're all Americans. You know, at the end of the day, one great thing Trump did say was success, you know, will unite us, and success will benefit everybody. And under his first term, the people, the narrative of the left is, well, he gave tax cuts for the rich. People that had the greatest wealth creation, greatest job creation, by the numbers. I've gone over it. The best numbers for the first 3 years, putting aside pandemic year, were African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, African American youth unemployment. I don't like demographics. I want every American to succeed. But when you look at the disaster that was the border, and 12.5 million unvetted, Harris, Biden, illegal immigrants, and for 3 years they lied and they said, no, the border's secure, the border's closed. And we, with our own eyes, see that it's anything but secure or closed. You had people coming from 180 countries, including Iran, Syria, Egypt, Afghanistan, Venezuela, tens and tens of thousands from China and Russia. I don't think those people are all coming here because they want a better life for themselves and their family. And they lied about it, they denied it, and then something else happened. And maybe the Democrats just thought they could ignore it, but we had dozens of Americans, and I would scroll their names on my TV show, that were murdered. The allegation is Harris, Biden, the illegals did it. And that we had their names. We knew when they came here. They came here because they opened up the border, and Harris pledging to get rid of that medieval vanity project, as she called the wall. Dozens of Americans dead, You know some of their names. I scrolled all their names. Rachel Morin, mother of 5, Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungary, little 12-year-old girl in Houston, and so many others. Dozens and dozens of Americans were raped, including children, Stephen A. And hundreds and hundreds of Americans were victims of violent crime. That's issue one. Now we can talk about the economy. They lied and said inflation was transitory. They told us the economy's great. But then it became, on day one, I'm going to fix the economy. But you were telling us for over 3 years that the economy is in great shape. You know, what is it? And she didn't get called out a lot on it. But people felt it. Every store, let me backtrack.
Okay.
There are points in my life where I had to struggle to pay my rent. I couldn't buy the food that I wanted to buy. I couldn't even afford McDonald's, and I worked for 10 years of my life in construction. 10 years of my life I worked in restaurants, and thank God, because it defined me as a human being. That and my belief in God, I think, have really kept me somewhat sane. You'll argue that part, but people are suffering. 2/3 of the country were saying in polls that they are gulping water financially. Last year alone, 25% of Americans said they had to forego meals. Okay, those are real pocketbook issues. They transcend every demographic. Then you go to the issue, every time you gas up your car, depending at what point we were in during the Harris-Biden administration, you're paying anywhere from 2.5 to $1 to $1.50 more per gallon of gasoline. Donald Trump, when he left office, it was $2.48 a gallon. The national average never went higher than $3 a gallon, never got to $3 a gallon. For the first time in 75 years, he made this country energy independent. And now he wants, in his second term, to make us energy dominant. I don't know about you. I have the money to fill up my car. It's not a problem for me financially, but I'd rather pay $2 a gallon than $3.50 a gallon. And I think most Americans, they feel it. It is hurting their businesses. Then you get to the madness of defund, dismantle, no bail laws, et cetera, et cetera. Back to immigration. We have known terrorists in the country. We have cartels in the country. We have gang members in this country that they allowed in. And by the way, they need to be sent out and sent home. And we can get into the details of that. So between all of that and a campaign that evolved into, if you're a conservative, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, and you're a fascist, and you like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. Not exactly the best campaign.
Well, let me ask you this, Sean.
Yeah.
If we had a stronger economy, and they make the argument that the economy had improved, inflation obviously was inherited from Trump to Biden at 1.5%. It ballooned to about 9.1%, if I remember correctly, before it ultimately dipped down. I know they make the argument, the left made the argument that the economy had improved. Reports said that as well. You begged to differ, but here's my question. If, for the sake of argument, the economy was good, but the border crisis had not taken place, would it have been a different outcome in your estimation if Biden had never opened the border? Essentially, what I'm asking.
If they would have done their job, in other words, would they have had a better chance of winning?
Would they have never opened the border? Would they have, if they had never opened the border?
If they never opened the border, well, first of all, this is now going to be the biggest national security threat in our lifetime. I have been warning for the longest time. And I mean this with all my heart, because I was there on 9/11. You were there on 9/11. Nobody's going to forget where they were on 9/11. And we lost 2,977 of our fellow Americans that day, the worst terror attack in history. And we have known terrorists in this country right now. We have Iranian assassination squads in this country right now. And their goal is to take out Donald Trump after 2 would-be assassins during this campaign. So if you're asking me, we were told there are 13,000 known murderers that they let into this country. They allowed in known terrorists, but we don't know where they are in the country. So I would assume that they're plotting, planning, and scheming their next attack. And I said on the air many times, they have blood on their hands for the people murdered, the people raped, and the people victims of violent crime. And I think it's sadly a matter of when and not if. This country's going to get hit with a terror attack, and they will have more blood on their hands. Now, I say that, and I always follow it up with, I pray to God, our Father, that I am wrong, that I am dead wrong. I don't think I am, Stephen A. They allowed too many of them in. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I think the plan ultimately, Kamala said what the plan was. Decriminalize the illegal immigrants, offer them free food, housing, healthcare, education, along with a running mate, legal driver's licenses, free sex change surgeries if you want one, taxpayer funded, and then a earned path to citizenship, which is really called amnesty. That was her plan. And that, the American people, they're not going to buy that. And the mainstream, I call it the legacy media, is dead in America as of right now.
Because
dead, they're done. It's over. It's over because look at what they have done to this man. No man has ever been persecuted to this level, whether you like him or don't like him, you like his policies, you don't like his style, I don't care. The Russia hoax was 3 years of a never-ending lie. They took out FISA warrants to spy on a candidate, Donald Trump, a president-elect Donald Trump, and then a president, Donald Trump. And they lied to a FISA court. Every one of the people that signed those FISA warrants eventually had to go before Lindsey Graham in the US Senate and ask the question, well, knowing what you know now, would you have signed the warrants? And every one of them said no. And they signed it based on a dirty Russian, bought and paid for disinformation dossier of Hillary Clinton. That happened in our country, Stephen A. It can't happen again. We've got to clean up these agencies. We can't weaponize the DOJ to go after political opponents. We can't use what was formerly the greatest law enforcement agency in the world, the FBI, and politicize it. We can't take the greatest intelligence agencies in the world and politicize it. 51 former intel officials that knew nothing about a laptop. That laptop was very real. And they did that in the weeks leading up to the 2020 election.
Fair enough.
There's deep corruption there.
Let me chime in here. Let me chime in here. And the reason why I'm going to chime in here is, number one, a lot of what you're saying is correct. The left absolutely categorically denied it.
There's nothing wrong with what I said.
Let me get to my bigger point. My bigger point is, first of all, I always had a problem with the whole lawfare issue, only from the standpoint that, to me, the Democrats were making it clear, and I think we now see they really didn't believe they could beat them. I think one could easily make the argument against them with that. But when somebody looks at Sean Hannity and they listen to you talk about Trump, they say to themselves, and I've seen liberals say this, so he's just going to ignore 34 felony convictions. He's just going to ignore 2 impeachments. He's just going to ignore those kind of things and act like Donald Trump is the paragon of virtue. What do you say to people who say that about Sean Hannity when it comes to him talking about Donald Trump?
I say I don't really give a damn what people say or think of Sean Hannity. I really don't care. I will say this, that I'm more informed than they are. I guarantee you, let me take it away from you.
Okay.
Every major business in New York, and I guarantee you, the prosecutor's office in New York have signed legal NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, that were put together by lawyers that were billed as a legal expense, taxes paid as appropriately, and nothing would have happened. So if you're asking me if I think this was the weaponization of a legal system against Donald Trump, my straight up answer is, tell me where I'm wrong. Because I bet you that prosecutor's office, if we got to their internal memos, they probably have signed NDAs too. There's probably not a company you've worked for in your career that has not signed them. It is a very common practice. There are probably people you interview, sports legends, the people you talk to every day. They probably have them too. If you want to date player X, you got to sign an NDA before you even go on a date with them. You know, and I know that's true.
Sean, when you bring up the issue of immigration, And you talk about the immigrants that entered this country. You talked about 13,000 of them, you guys were told, were criminals. Now, obviously, we looked at the border, and I think the number it's said to have eclipsed 11.6 million that entered this
Over
country
12 and a
illegally,
half
if
million.
not more. They've talked about that as well. What do you say to folks from the Latino, from the Hispanic communities throughout this country that say when Trump speaks, he might not highlight it's 13,000. He speaks as if it's most, if not all of them, and that creates such a negative stereotype about immigrants entering this country.
No,
What do you say about that?
I would gently disagree with you and say that when he spoke, he talked about the fact that we didn't vet people. We have a legal process to come into this country. Look, my grandparents all came from Ireland at the turn of the last century, and came here dirt poor. They faced their level of discrimination. Irish Catholic need not apply. They had no money at all whatsoever. And, it was terrible for them, but I know that I stand on their shoulders. I don't care where you come from, Stephen A. I just want to vet you. I want to make sure you don't have radical associations. I want to make sure post-pandemic that we have a health check. I want to make sure that you're not going to be a financial burden on the American people. And if you do it legally, and we ought to expedite the process, it ought not be that difficult, then I don't care what part of the world you come from. Welcome to our country. We can't take in the world's population, but we can be selective about who we take into the country. And we certainly must have a background check. There are evil people in this world, and we cannot let them into this country. We've got to protect our family here first. And if we do that, if you come in legally, welcome to America. God bless you. And I wish you the best of success. May God bless you and your family. And Donald Trump, look at the numbers, Stephen A. They don't lie. I mean, he had the largest increase in vote with minorities, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, young people, women. I mean, all across the board, people know. And the reason is for the reasons I discussed earlier. Everybody wants lower gas prices. I go do my own grocery shopping. You know what?
What?
The average family, $13,000 more a year they're paying for what they were buying in 2020. People are putting bare necessities on credit cards. It's the economy, stupid. It's law and order and this madness of defund, dismantle, no bail laws, and reimagining the police. It's wide open borders. It's sex change operations. It's wokeism. We could talk about that all day if you want. And it's all. And what frustrated me in the campaign is Kamala flat out lied to the American people repeatedly. She tried to scare seniors in this country and say Donald Trump is going to take your Social Security and your Medicare. No, he's not. Social Security, Medicare benefits went up in his first term, and he has pledged never to do that. Well, he supports Project 2025. He doesn't even know what it is. I've asked him myself numerous times. Kamala said that he's going to sign a national abortion ban. He promised he wouldn't. She said he would limit your access to contraception. He never said that. He would limit IVF treatments. He never said that either. And I don't like being lied to. We're both parents. If your kid does something wrong, okay, it's probably not as bad as the things that you did as a kid and the things I did as a kid.
You lie to us, it's worse.
That's fine. But if they lie to you about it, you're going to be in much more trouble in my world.
My world as well. 2 points I want to address that you brought up. Yes, Trump didn't talk about a national abortion ban. The flip side to it, however, is that justices who would condone that, who seem as if they would support that, are people obviously he elevated to the Supreme Court. One would argue when you talk about it because no longer being a federal issue, it's now states' rights. Some people say, yeah, Donald Trump, but you had everything to do with that. So I look at it from that perspective. There's no question about that.
Yeah, but Stephen A., for years, those of us that looked at Roe v. Wade, if you believe in federalism, okay, and you believe in states, having the ability to make these decisions and putting it into the hands of the people directly through their duly elected representatives or through a referendum process or proposition process like they have out in California. Let's take a red state, Ohio. Okay, Roe v. Wade is overturned. They have a referendum vote on abortion, and they vote for one of the most liberal abortion laws in the country. Abortion is not going to be outlawed in America in our lifetime, period. End of sentence. It is they're demagoguing it. They'll flat out lying, and they're trying to scare women, and they know what they're doing. That's the worst part of it. Now, I happen to have views. I'm very pro-life. I'm a Christian, and my faith means everything to me. You and I have talked about our faith with each other.
Yep.
And however, I understand where the country is, and the country to me is probably first trimester or Dobbs 15 weeks. And by the way, that's where even the most liberal European countries are. I mean, they don't go beyond that. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, absolutely no restrictions on abortion in months 7, 8, and 9. Okay, that's called infanticide because that child can live independently outside the womb. That is morally repugnant to me. The other thing that, you know, we want to stay a little bit on some of the social issues, you know, why would California and Minnesota offer gender affirming care to minors?
I don't
Not
approve of that.
to I'm libertarian like you. You're an adult, live your life. It's none of Sean Hannity's business. None of my business at all. No criticism from me. But if it's somebody's children, I believe in parents' rights. I know you believe in parents' rights. Why do you think, as a bureaucrat or a government, that you could offer medical care that could be life altering to children and not consult with the parents?
Listen, we don't have to belabor that point because I think that the left went a bit too far with the progressive left. I think they were held hostage by the progressive left. I think that's why Biden opened the border from day one. But let me get back to something about Trump.
But I think the Democratic Party is the progressive left.
Well, I don't think
if they had a primary tomorrow, they would pick somebody like Kamala Harris. They wouldn't pick Stephen A. Smith.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Reasonable.
I think you're wrong, especially after the results of this election. I think you're absolutely wrong about that. I think they've learned their lesson. Make no mistake about it.
Right about the election. Don't underestimate me.
After this butt whipping, I mean, there's no question. They should rethink things, no question about it. But I'm going to get back to Trump before I get into it with you with some things that do need to change, particularly when it comes to the Democratic Party. I want the world to hear
I got to get lectured now by you. I come on your podcast to get lectured? Really?
Excuse me.
You're going to lecture me?
After you spent 2 years lecturing me about Tim Tebow, you gonna complain with me about this? You better stop right now. You better stop right now. But let me ask you this, Sean.
The best is my son, who's your biggest fan.
Right.
And he had an opportunity to hang with us. And oh man,
I made his
every
day.
time you.
I made his day.
I'm sorry about Dak's
I made his day.
you know I mean that. But man, you talk about his Cowboys, and it's like lights out, Dad.
It's a wrap.
Stephen A's at it again. I'm like,
exactly. And they got stomped yesterday. But let me get back to Trump. You talk about money. Yeah. You talk about the economy. You also talk about our national deficit and the exorbitant spending that the Democrats have done over the years. When Trump was in office, he did increase the national deficit by about $8.4 trillion, Sean. I don't hear you bring that up too often. What's up with that?
Okay, well, there were extenuating circumstances in the last year of the Trump administration and the first year of the Biden administration, and that would be
COVID.
The worst pandemic in 100 years. So I think we have to extrapolate from both sides, to be fair, those years out. And he had to spend a lot of money on all that, and that's a big part of where it came from. However, post-COVID years, Kamala and Joe have been putting another $2 trillion to the bottom line. Republicans, in my view, pay very close attention. They are not paying enough attention to our national debt. It is projected to soon be $50 trillion. Now, the best part of Trump's agenda that people are not going to be paying attention to is, you've heard the term all throughout your life, oil-rich countries, energy-rich countries. Well, we are the richest of all those countries combined. We have more oil, natural gas, coal than all of them. Now, the first step was energy independence. That was hard to achieve. Trump got it done the first time in 75 years. And in interviews that I have had with him and private conversations that I've had with him, if America wants to get wealthy. For example, I got kicked out of New York. I had 2 governors say, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. We don't want you here anymore.
Oh, you didn't get kicked out. You wanted to leave. Stop that. You wanted to leave because
No.
every show you complained about taxes.
Hold on.
Every show.
Andrew Cuomo, I'll quote him for you, and then we'll get back to energy. If you're one of those conservatives that is pro-life and pro-assault weapon and anti-gay, you're not a New Yorker, and there's no place for you in New York. First of all, I'm not anti-gay anything, not at all. Friends, relatives, people in my life, love them. They're family to me. Not an issue in Sean Hannity's world. But the fact that he said that, and Kathy Hochul says, Lee Zeldin, all you Trump guys, get on a bus, go down to Florida, get the hell out of here, get the hell out of here. So I got the hell out. And I barely go back. I'm not, it's so they did do it. But back to energy. If America, and one way to save New York would be fracking. It's the dumbest decision ever. You could lower taxes in California and New York immediately if you just tap into the energy resources both states have.
Right.
If Donald Trump is able to succeed in providing all of Western Europe with their energy needs, we will be an energy-rich country. What does that mean? We can pay off that debt. We can lower our taxes. The American people can benefit even from the resources, the shared resources we have. I'll give you an example. If you are a resident citizen of Alaska and you don't pay the income taxes, they give you a check every year because you share in the energy resources of that state. Most people don't know that. One other thing I would do, and the president is going to allow Elon Musk to come in.
That's where I was going.
He's looking to get rid of $2 trillion in spending. Now, we tried this once before in the Reagan years. It was called the Grace Commission. And they looked for ways to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And the best, brightest business minds in America. And they came up with all these ideas. How many, Stephen A., quick pop quiz of the hundreds of ideas they came up with, how many do you think Congress adopted?
Maybe 2.
Zero. They're addicted to spending. They get their power through spending. And there's another idea that I would implement. And I talked to Trump in his first term about it. I've not talked to him recently about it. It was put together by a Florida congressman at the time, Connie Mack. It was called the Penny Plan. And every year, they have what's called baseline budgeting. And every year in government, every single department, they build in an increase, 7% a year, every year for 7 years, et cetera. Eliminate baseline budgeting. Don't impact Social Security and Medicare. As a matter of fact, you need to replenish the lockbox that they raided and stole from. And because they're headed towards insolvency, once they do that, except for defense, everything else has got to remain constant for 6 or 7 years. You cut 1 or 2 cents out of every dollar that you're spending now, and you'll meet a balanced budget. The last time we balanced the budget, it was Newt Gingrich when he was Speaker and Bill Clinton as President.
And Bill Clinton
as President 4 years in a row.
They did it in 1994. Let me get to you personally on a couple of matters.
Boy.
Check this out. I often joke about this. You've heard me joke about this, but you're not offended by it. I wouldn't do that to you. I've said to people, and obviously I'm being very facetious here, if a Republican shot somebody in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue in New York City, the first words out of your mouth would be the Democrats did it first. Anything that you come up with that the conservatives do, the Democrats are bigger culprits. When did this addiction?
This is Stephen A. theater. This is Stephen A.
Am I lying?
This is Stephen A. trying to be provocative.
I'm just asking.
I'm not playing your game. Let me tell you, when Republicans are wrong, I have a history of calling them out. When they spend too much money, when they go for stopgap measures and continuing resolutions, when they don't fight for the things they say they're going to fight
That's
for.
not what I'm saying, Sean.
You're not either watching that day or you're not listening.
Sean, that's not what I'm saying.
I am loud and outspoken and I name names.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not questioning that. It's absolutely true. I've seen you attack many of Republicans when you think they're wrong. I'm only talking about them in comparison to Democrats, particularly when they're running for office. Because I know on a Republican's worst day, you will pick them ahead of any Democrat on the planet. That I know about you. I'm lying?
No. Well, listen, I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to say, I don't like the word proud. I say I'm proud that I did this. I'm grateful that I have a microphone and a camera every day in front of me. And I thank my audience. I thank your audience, and I am humbled and grateful for it. However, I am appreciative that we did coverage in this election that nobody else did. I played Kamala Harris, in her own words, supporting the radical $93 trillion Green New Deal, and her in her own voice saying that she would eliminate the filibuster to pass it. She co-sponsored that bill with Bernie Sanders. Nobody else covered that. She co-sponsored with Bernie Sanders again, Medicare for all, and she's on tape saying she would eliminate the choice of private health care. She talked about many times, and I played those tapes, of mandatory gun buybacks. That's called confiscation.
And you never bought her change positions. You never bought a change.
I played her position on every single major issue in her own words. And I put together and I put it on my website, Kamala in her own words, the Kamala Files. And guess what? I deputized everybody in my audience. We're on 750 radio stations, Sirius XM. I do a podcast, as you know, and I'm on Fox every night. And I put it together and people shared it with their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers, strangers, the social media. And guess what? I take credit for people knowing about that radicalism. Stephen A., is there one person you know that wants taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries?
I don't know of one person.
Convicted felons or illegal immigrants? Is there one person in your life?
No. But you also talk about.
You wouldn't know it except for people like me. You're welcome.
But you're very big on character as well. And we all know that there are question marks about Trump's character in a lot of people's eyes. I'm being kind here.
You want to talk about Kamala's husband? Okay,
no,
I'll talk about Kamala.
he's not running. He didn't run for president, Sean. He didn't run for president. It was Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. You see how you're doing?
I thought you were talking about Doug.
That's all I'm saying.
By the way, did I talk a lot about Doug on my show?
No, you did not.
No, I did not.
No, you did not.
You know, look, I don't know what's true or not true. As a Christian, I do believe we've all sinned, including starting right here. Look closely, my eye. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. If we're looking for perfection in a leader, you're never going to find it. And what I've learned about the smartest, brightest, most creative, most talented people in the world, and I actually put you in that category, except not in this category, is their blessing is their curse. Right. A lot of times. What makes them great could also hurt them sometimes. And I accept that brilliance, that gift. You know, look at the imperfect people in the Bible. You know, here's King David, right? And I'm not talking about Trump anymore, but that's off the table. I'm not talking about Kamala or her husband. But, you know, God picks certain people at certain times, and he picks the most interesting figures in the world, doesn't he? I mean, he blessed both of us. You know, we have very similar backgrounds, and to have an opportunity to talk to large audiences every day, that is such a blessing, and neither one of us deserve it, to be very honest, especially you.
Yeah, I'll take that, especially me. I'll take it, Sean. But listen, I'll say this to you. In all honesty, I've been dying to ask you this one question. No matter what election there is, because I've been listening to you for 20 years. We've been friends for 20 years. You've always been there for me, and I've always appreciated that. That's why we've been such good friends, because you've always you've always had my back. I've got to ask you. You've talked on numerous occasions through numerous elections of how fearful you were of the state of our country if the left had won an election. Barack Obama won ultimately in 2008, of course, and obviously Clinton had won in 92. We get all of that. But I ask you honestly, going into this election, was I wrong in surmising that you were genuinely more fearful of the state of our country for this past election that just happened last week, more so than any other election you can recall in your adult life?
By far. And I said it. I said it often. To me, this was an inflection point. If we would have kept the borders open the way we have, the risk is already so high of really bad things happening in this country that I pray to God that it doesn't happen. On that issue, the new Green Deal that she co-sponsored, her bill, she never got asked that question by the legacy media. That's why legacy media is dead. You know, with everything they threw at Trump, ABC, NBC, CBS, Washington Post, New York Times, USA Today, all these liberal cable channels, all these celebrities, all these endorsements, blah. The American people, they don't care what they think or say anymore. They have found talk radio, they have found podcasting, they have found Fox News. They now have alternatives that they didn't have years and years when I started in this business. And so, yeah, and I'll tell you why, because the new Green Deal would have destroyed capitalism. I don't want to live in a country where we have government-run healthcare. Tell me what government runs well now. Look at most of the schools. They're horrible. They can't keep towns and cities safe and secure so people can pursue happiness. Tell me, how is it we're going to give more power and authority to the people that raided the lockbox for Social Security and Medicare that are now headed towards insolvency? The same people that won't control our borders and follow the laws that exist in this country, but they take it a step further. They aid and abet in the law breaking. Why do people have confidence in a government that promised, you're going to keep your doctor, keep your plan, and the average family is going to save, on average, $2,500 a year, and millions lose their doctors, millions lose their plans. 40-some-odd% of the country has one Obamacare exchange option, and everybody's paying 250 to 300% more. Why do people put their faith in the government? I believe in the individual. I believe in the cause of freedom.
May I answer that?
With freedom comes responsibility. I have, since the time I am 8 years old, worked in my life. I don't, these people that work 8-hour days, I don't know. There's nobody in my world that I know that's successful that works 8 hours a day. I don't stop working. I work because it's my passion and it's my job. It is what I do, and I work hard. And the rest of the time, I'm a bit of a hermit, as you know, and I hang out with my family and friends.
And when you and I have had these conversations, and you've always thrown these questions back to me, I've openly confessed. I remember you were shocked when I told you. I said, "Listen, my mother and father voted Democrat every day of the week, but I don't know what the hell that was for because we lived in a very conservative household all my life. I've never recalled it being liberal. It was conservative. So you had me there. But I also talked about splitting the baby down the middle, and I meant that this way." The points that you just articulated, fine, but let's go the federal route for a second. As a black man, I'm thinking about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm thinking about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. There is a place for federal intervention. There is a place for federal oversight. I said maybe not with everything, but with some things. And I brought that up to you.
Question: who was it that filibustered the 64 Civil Rights Act and the 65 Voting Rights Act? Do you know the guy's name? It was a guy by the name Robert, the former Klansman, KKK Byrd, I call him.
Yes, Robert Byrd from West Virginia.
You know that Robert Byrd and Joe Biden, very few people seem to know this. I pointed it out during the 2020 election and many times since, that they partnered, and the only one to call him out on the Democratic side during the primary in 2020 was Kamala. Interestingly, that Joe partnered with somebody he referred to as his mentor and his friend, former Klansman, and the guy that filibustered the Civil Rights Act. And he partnered with him to stop the integration of public schools. Joe Biden's words: he didn't want public schools and busing at the time. He didn't want them to become racial jungles. Did you know that Joe Biden said that, or am I teaching you something new today?
No, I'm aware. I'm aware. No question about it. I brought it up. Kamala brought it up, so we can't escape that. Sean, I'm going to let you get out of here, but I got one more question for you.
Wait a minute. I wanted to talk about one last thing.
Okay.
You asked, you came on my show after the election. I watched you. You went on another show, and then I watched you. You came on my show.
Yep.
And there's very few people that were as gracious as you. And I know how you wanted the vote to go.
Yeah.
I've been on the air many times after an election going a way I didn't want it to go. And I try to show the same respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't sit there and cry. You got women now shaving their heads, pledging to divorce their husbands, and pledging to never have sex with men again, which is up their choice. I'm not going to get involved in their private life, but it's crazy. You just brought up, how does America, if you and I could be friends, we don't agree on all these issues, we don't agree on every sports issue, we don't agree on every political issue. How do we reconcile the idea that there's half the country that wants open borders and half the country that wants secure borders? How do you reconcile those that want, EV mandates and refrigerator mandates and dishwasher mandates and washer dryer mandates, and those that believe in freedom? How do we reconcile those that want energy independence and those that want to ban fracking and offshore drilling? How do we reconcile those that believe in law and order so we can be safe and secure and to pursue happiness versus defund, dismantle, no bail?
Here's what I think.
How do we reconcile Green New Deal, radical Marxist socialism
Mm-hmm.
with capitalism? Now, that's a deep and profound question. Right now, the way we are dealing with it is one side wins and one side loses. Is there middle ground? Tell me.
I think
I'll shush up for once.
I'll answer that question as a lead into my very last question to you.
You bet.
There's a happy medium as long as there's common ground on people wanting America to be as great as it's supposed to be, considering the fact that we're the richest country in the world. See, I think the part that some people miss, and I'm not accusing you of this, there are some people whose definition of or whose vision of America in terms of the vision that they want to see America burnt to the ground. They want to see America crumble. See, people like that you can't talk to because
like Kamala Harris that said
I'm not going to say
rioters
that.
in the summer.
No,
all right,
see how you do. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. What I'm saying to you is that you might have a different vision of America in terms of what it will take to make America what it's supposed to be than I. But if we both want America to be great, it's just about our vision. You got to make sure to take those in a bowl and separate them from those who really want America to burn to the ground. That's what I'm saying.
How do you reconcile open borders, closed borders, energy independence and dominance, and no drilling or fracking? How do you reconcile defund, dismantle the police, and no bail laws versus law and order? How do you reconcile any of these issues? I don't see middle ground, to be honest.
Okay.
I really don't see it. Okay, well, we'll defund half the police departments, we'll dismantle half of them, and then we'll fund the other half. It's not going to work that way. We'll open half the border, but not the other half of the border. We'll drill a little bit more, but we won't be energy
Let me say this to you. I'll tell you what, and this again, this leads to my last question. I think if you have an economy where the vast majority of Americans are flourishing, I think if you have safe streets in America, I think the combination of those two things, and we're moving in a forward direction where people are able to look at it and say, I don't have everything I want, but I can't deny that this country is in a good place. I think you'll find folks saying, okay, that's what we're addicted to. We're fine. My question to you, last question, is this. Donald Trump, with a deficit in the trillions, okay, when you consider the plight, when you consider that economists came out and said the money that he's going to have to spend, it's going to elevate the deficit even more, which will put us in even worse times. All of those things being considered, Sean Hannity, how do you think he is going to end up doing? And what do we get to do to define whether or not Donald Trump has a successful presidency over the upcoming 4 years?
Well, you're asking two separate questions.
Okay.
Okay, so for him to succeed, now we have to rebuild our military. Our military, we're almost back to where we were when Reagan took office, a huge gap of vulnerability. China and Russia have hypersonic technology. We don't, Stephen A. We got to spend a lot of money on that. We're going to have to spend a lot of money to secure our border. We're going to have to spend a lot of money to shore up Social Security and Medicare. We're going to have to spend a lot of money to make sure the border's secure and that towns and cities are safe and secure. And let's be honest, Democratic run cities have the worst schools. They suck. And we are robbing our children of the ladder to success and the talent that God gave them. So that all costs money. But I gave you the answer earlier. There's only two ways to deal with that. One, energy will make this country the richest country on earth. Two, you got to cut back on spending. I like the penny plan that I mentioned. I like Elon Musk getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. That would be very helpful. Is there a magic? Is this something that will be accomplished by year two? No, it will not. It's going to take the full 4 years. Let's see where we are. There will be deficit spending because there are things he has to do. We've got to be able to battle the worst geopolitical foes one could imagine in China, Russia, Iran, and maybe North Korea, especially the Iranians. The Iranians are very dangerous right now because they have this radical, convert or die madness. They're funding 4 proxy wars against Israel. They have pledged death to America, death to Israel. It's extraordinarily dangerous. So we got to rebuild our military. With that said, his legacy will be this. If Donald Trump keeps the promise to secure the border, if he keeps the promise to get our cities more safe and secure, if he keeps the promise to get the economy back on track for everyday Americans, the people that really do make this country great, in every small town and every big city, if he keeps the promise to make us energy dominant, if he restores America's place in the world where our adversaries and top geopolitical foes respect us again and are fearful in a good way, healthy way, of this president, I think this is going to, not only was this the greatest political comeback in the modern era, it might go down as one of the greatest, it may go down as the greatest political comeback ever. It only happened one other time in this country. And knowing him privately, publicly, I know that's where his gut is, and he's going to hit the ground running so freaking hard on day one. Don't be surprised. It's going to be hyperbole. He's throwing out all these people that didn't respect our laws, our borders, our sovereignty. Oh, he's a racist. He's a this, he's a that. He's a monster. Internment camps. All that rhetoric is going to happen. But we got to get the country safe and secure. And people come in legally, and you're welcome and be a part of our family. Just do it legally, please. So that's my prediction. But I think his legacy, he is primed to have a legacy that'll be second to none if he does it right.
You've been on message. You do not change. You feel what you feel. You've always said it. You've done it repeatedly. I've told this to people many occasions. You're on 750 radio stations across the United States of America, plus Sirius XM radio. You got 3 hours a day on radio, then another hour every weeknight on Fox News Channel, okay, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every single conversation, every single interview, every single monologue, every single show, you say the same damn thing. I get tired of people telling me, Stephen A., get him. You got to say, bring this up, bring that. I said, you just don't understand. The message will not change. You don't understand. He says the same damn thing every day, and he's been doing it for 30 years. But I say it in a different way. You're asking me questions why I believe what I believe. Can I tell you why? Go ahead.
Because I believe in the principles of conservatism, because conservatism works. I wrote a chapter in my last book. I swore I was never going to write another book, and I wrote it in 2020. It went to #1. Thank you. Thank God. And it was called Live Free or Die, America and the World on the Brink. And I had a chapter about socialism in there. And it's called Socialism, Its History of Failure. I don't care what name you slap on it, what manifestation it takes on. The New Green Deal to me represented socialism, Marxism, whatever word you want to, whatever label you want to place on it. And every single time it has been tried, it always ends the same way. Unfulfilled promises, more poverty, and a loss of freedom. How much freedom did you give up in the name of false security for Obamacare? Or why is Social Security and Medicare going towards insolvency? And why can't our government have better schools, keep our borders secure, and make sure our towns and cities are safe, man? To me, it's about people. America, we need to aspire to be great again, to be the greatest. The Washington Post had an article. Well, the next generation, they're going to have to start worrying about not affording a house, so they need to settle for a townhouse. I'm like, no, they don't. Why would we settle? That's like Jimmy Carter telling us to wear a sweater and turn down the thermostat. No, we're better than that. Aspire to higher than that. You know, Elon Musk is about to send a rocket ship to rescue astronauts in space. He's planning to go to Mars. That's the America that took Stephen A. Smith, who started out, and I won't get into your life story because I don't know how much you want me to reveal, who started out where people did not believe in him at the highest level. And it inspired you and motivated you. And you are ESPN Sports. There is no ESPN, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, without Stephen A. Smith. And then you expand out into politics, which I got a lot of work to do. And then you expand out into a podcast. And then you come on my shows. And then that's when I let you talk, by the way. You let me talk on your show.
You never let me talk like this. I tell you that much. But look, man, go to work. I got to go. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy
Stephen A.,
schedule.
I want to tell you something.
What's up, bro? What's going on?
I love you. You're a dear friend.
I appreciate it. Same, right back at you. Like I told you, you've always been there for me, man. Always. I will never
And I always
apologize.
will.
I will never apologize for being your friend, any damn body. I don't agree with you, damn it. You understand? I wish Kamala had won. You understand? But I hope that Trump is everything you say and you believe he is. And I do say this. As a country, it was a fair election, and he won by a romp. Swept all the swing states and what have you, eradicated the blue wall. The American people have
popular
spoken.
Vote.
The American, won a popular vote and the Electoral College vote. The American people have spoken. There's nothing for us to say. We got to accept it, eat it, and now let's see if he lives up to what Sean Hannity believes.
Can I add one thing?
I'm getting ready to go, but go ahead, Sean.
You know, all these people, I wonder if they're going to, Rachel Maddow, the ladies of The View,
oh my God.
You know, they're going to take us off the air and arrest us.
Nice.
Do you know who stuck up for, Bill Maher probably doesn't remember it. The people that stuck up for Bill Maher.
He does remember
when Bill Maher was about to be taken off the air.
I spoke to him about that. He does remember that. He does remember that. Limbaugh,
and he hates me. Now, Joy Reid over at MSDNC was on the verge of getting fired. I know because months later, I went on the air and said, give her an opportunity to apologize and give her another chance. And an NBC executive, true story, told me, your comments allowed us to save her career. She wrote me the nicest note. She probably doesn't remember, but I do.
Okay.
And, you know, I don't support cancel culture. I don't support boycotts. I never have, never will. I believe in freedom of speech. That's why you're so good at what you do.
Don't say that freedom and then say, but that's why you're so great at what you do. I know how you snuck in that comment. Be nice. Be nice.
No, that was being nice. I'm not taking a shot.
I got you.
No shot there.
Right back at you. I'll be watching Hannity tonight, my man.
All right, man.
Thanks so
Love
much,
you.
man. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All the love, man. Take care.
Yeah, buddy.
That's it, y'all. That's the one and only Sean Hannity right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. I had a lot of stuff I was going to get into, but I'm not going to bother because, damn it, he's been talking so long. You see how long he talks, right? It's not just on his show. It's on every damn show he's on. That's Sean Hannity. That's what he tries to do, okay? He doesn't play. This is what you call it filibuster. You call it whatever you want. He's going to speak his mind. He's going to say what he has to say, but he earned this one because he was telling me leading up to the election, we're going to win, and we're probably going to win big. It's not going to be as close as you think because the American people are tired of what they're seeing, and I didn't believe it. And sure enough, election night, they showed us. Sean Hannity had a point. He was absolutely right. And obviously, I promised him I was going to bring him on my show, and he honored his commitment to come on this show and speak his piece. That's what he did. That's the way it goes. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. For all the conservatives out there who feel I don't give conservatives enough of a voice, I just gave that man an hour. I just gave that man an hour for y'all to listen to him, okay? You satisfied? I am, to be quite honest with you. I love talking to him, especially when I disagree with him. But I had no leg to stand on for this particular interview. The results speak for themselves. It was a romp, and Sean Hannity was kind enough to be gracious enough in reminding us it was a romp. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. I'll be back with you in a couple of days. Until next time, everybody, peace and love.